Sometimes video game enemies can seem to take a life of their own on, and through programming problems or glitches will behave erratically, and if they don't, well, there are also plenty of examples where we can push the game a little to see what happens and see how our classic foes will react. I'm Sai for WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 times video game enemies went places they shouldn't. Number 8. Teleporting enemies, Destiny 2. Cheating is all well and good when you're the player, but if the enemy cheats, then we can all agree that that's just not fair. Beginning with the Beyond Light update, things got really bad for Destiny 2 players during the Season of the Chosen that later followed it in early 2021. What had originally been designed to assist boss spawns so that players could continue their fight against them if the boss got stuck somewhere on the map, the code had also been applied to the AI of regular enemies. Ducking into cover to hide from foes who would suddenly appear in close combat with you was an aggravating moment that became more and more common. Playing tactically only meant so much when your target disappeared from your line of sight only to suddenly be behind you, blasting you with jets of fire. It took months for Bungie to announce they had fixed the issue with teleporting enemies and rolled a patch out that summer, washing their hands of it. Since then, however, the problem has persisted, and many cite it's worse than it's ever been. Number 7. GANDOHAR, Two Worlds. Two Worlds was billing itself as the RPG to beat the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, and instead released as an undercooked buggy mess. The thing about buggy messes is that it means sometimes players will find wonderful ways to exploit them to make their own fun. Two Worlds' final boss GANDOHAR is actually able to be encountered by the player as they reach the game's first town, but he's too powerful to take down right away. That being said, you can make this happen with a little help from some friends. Throwing a fireball at GANDOHAR and then wandering into the town will trick him into following you. If he throws his own spell at you and the splash damage hits a villager, well then his fate is sealed. NPC AI in this game is triggered to gang up on whoever attacks them, and it's not just limited to the player. Boy, you came to the wrong town. In the first patch of the game, GANDOHAR dying anywhere will even trigger the game's final cutscene, wherein the player character rescues their kidnapped sister who, now rather ironically, will say, "That took a long time." Number 6. MISSINGNO, Pokemon Red and Blue. For all of the many great things the original Pokemon games are known for, there was one huge discovery that was the talk of players everywhere. Chatting to the lazy old man in Viridian City and then flying to Cinnabar Island and surfing on the shoreline could cause you to encounter a mysterious monstrosity. Through scrambling the game's stored memory, Pokemon Red and Blue gets confused and can spawn Pokemon where it shouldn't. It was a handy way to catch rare monsters that can only be found in the Safari Zone out in the wild. However, if the game's memory can't read or assign a stored number, it will then drop you into a battle with the infamous MISSINGNO. Many gamers' first real experience with major glitches, MISSINGNO proved to be popular because of its intrigue and the positive effects it could have on your save. Encountering the Pokemon could duplicate rare items in your inventory, giving us all infinite Master Balls and rare candies for days. Catching the glitch was often a risk as it could evolve randomly and cause persisting issues in your game save. If you ask Nintendo, this enemy should never have spawned here. In fact, it should never have spawned at all. Number 5. The DEBUG cheat, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. 19650917, numbers seared into the minds of superfans of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Dropping this combination of numbers into the game sound test unlocked the level select menu, which is just one of a few codes that keeps gamers coming back to the title to play it their own way. The most bizarre of these is the debug cheat, which turns one of Sonic's many jump buttons into essentially God mode. With the debug, players can scroll through the vast majority of the assets loaded in for that particular stage and then can do whatever they see fit. Most of the time that means ploughing 50 rings down onto the zone, which in combination with the All Emeralds cheat enables even the laziest player to transform into Supersonic without all the faff of the special stages and blitz through every act in seconds. If you're a bit of a maniac and want to construct some kind of wild and weird challenge for yourself though, the options available to you also include spawning any and all badniks. Suddenly you can give Emerald Hill Zone a flying robofish population problem or cover Metropolis Zone in grasshopper robots and exploding starfish. Almost like a precursor to Mario Maker, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 lets us make even the most simple part of any stage a hellscape of badniks and spikes. Number 4. KAZZAK, World of Warcraft. In classic World of Warcraft, it was possible to aggravate any mob and have them follow you anywhere if you did it right. This extended up to the game's most challenging boss fights. KAZZAK was considered one of the toughest bosses in the game at one point, and some mischievous players wondered what would happen if they could bring the demon from the Blasted Lands to the closest city of Stormwind. The journey itself was immense, and it's a feat that players managed to make it through the Swamp of Sorrows, Deadwind Pass, Duskwood and Elwyn Forest with KAZZAK on their tail. And then all hell broke loose. Unlike Two Worlds, the NPCs in World of Warcraft couldn't help with this one. In fact, these and low-level characters only made things worse. For every character slain, KAZZAK would regenerate 70,000 HP. Being in such a densely populated area, he became unkillable very quickly. To make matters worse, his Shadow Bolt attacks could pass through walls. KAZZAK was basically drawn to Stormwind and became the city's own kaiju nightmare. The only way this issue was going to end was Blizzard stepping in and vanishing KAZZAK into the ether. When he respawned back at Blasted Lands, he was forever tied to his spawn point and his rampage was finally over. Number 3. Mr. X, Resident Evil 2 2019. Capcom knocked it out of the park with the 2019 reimagining of Resident Evil 2, a beautiful, dark and thrilling mega hit that revitalised interest in the series. At the forefront of all the internet chatter was the brilliantly terrifying rebirth of Mr. X. X was gone give it to ya if it was a large grey fist to the chops. Your only respite from the stalking, stomping tyrant are save rooms. Here you can take a spell to figure out your next move and listen to the sound of the creature's thudding footsteps as he frustratingly walks around the RPD in search of something to take his rage out on. This one's a bit of a cheat since Mr. X can't actually step foot into the save room, but he can freak players the hell out by sticking his head in. I'm sure he's just checking to see if you're alright. After all, you've been hiding in there a long time. It's kind of like the "Are you winning, son" meme, but you know, terrifying. If you stand in the doorway and the tyrant is nearby, he'll try to come stomping at you, but no matter what, he can't break the boundary entirely. For a second, he'll poke his head in, resulting in an empty bladder at the possibility that for a second, Mr. X has broken the cardinal rule. Number 2. The YIGA-CLAN, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The YIGA-CLAN are actually some of the toughest regular enemies you can encounter in the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild story, purely because they have the rather rare ability to pull off a one-hit kill move. Whilst you can see them occasionally across the overworld, players mostly remember the Yiga for being surrounded by them as they tried to sneak through the ninja hideout. If you break out of bounds when within the Yiga headquarters and leave the confines of the map, it's possible to shoot an arrow back into the world. Normally a stealth mission, this will attract the Yiga ninjas who can disappear and appear at will, and can even leave the fabric of reality to come and chase you. Some amusing effects of this include taking them to settlements where Breath of the Wild's enemies are programmed to suddenly go prone, so you can observe the Yiga just hanging out with regular townsfolk. However, if you want to make any part of the game more challenging, you can bring the ninja with you just to make everything more complicated. Number 1. Enemy Randomiser mods. If nothing else, one thing that console users can be jealous of compared to their PC gaming brothers and sisters is mods. Fan-created content of all kinds exists for basically every single game out there, typically cosmetic in fashion as it's the easiest thing to do. Some games lend themselves to a whole other ballgame, however, and are perfect for those that want to give themselves a whole new level of challenge. Whether you've mastered a title or are a sadist, or in fact both, a variety of games out there present a brand new way to play with the Enemy Randomiser. Everything you think you knew about enemy placement goes out the window. Where there once may have been a lonely zombie in Resident Evil Remake, now exists a bloodthirsty hunter. Different games let you do slightly different things of course, but the most brutal will even drop bosses where normal enemies once lay, which is particularly brutal when you meet your final foe in the opening moments. And because randomizers present challenges via the unexpected, it's not surprising that Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro and now even Elden Ring have them. So just in case you had mastered some of the toughest games on the market and were looking for a new reason to tear your hair out, why not try an Enemy Randomiser? And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below, and whilst you're there, let us know of any other examples you can think of enemies breaking out of where they should be, whether you put them there or they did it themselves. Make sure you like this video, share it with a friend, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I've been Cy for WhatCulture, and have a good week.